Guys and ladies, welcome. I know it's been a while, but we got a good episode out for you today, so here it is. Now, if we're to take into account the symbolism from the 5 stages of grief like we covered in the last couple episodes, we have to apply a symbolic role to Majora as well. So here we have Link, mastering the stages of grief, and those things are blocking out the happiness seed. So after all that, what could you possibly be fighting still? What could be the final boss fight after the 5 stages of grief? Well, I went on a whim here, and I decided to look up different depictions of original sin, and here's why. We got Majora as the root of everyone's pain and turmoil. The land is segmented into different stages of grief. You heard that quote before, "Bad things happen, how I respond to them defines my character." In the same way, attitude determines happiness. Link's the hero of time, so he's good on the character. But Majora's mask perpetuates despair, which prevents the terminants from happiness. From a religious perspective, sin, in any form, is directly connected to grief. Have you ever read Dante's Inferno? Have you ever played Dante's Inferno?
Please let me see you one more.
See that guy? He's sad. But he ain't sad about disobeying God. He's just sad he wasn't able to save his beloved. Some people might think he deserves redemption, but God made hell, and he has rules. So yeah, tough shit basically. Grief doesn't come from an outside source, it stems from a reaction you make to an event. This is how I created this new theory, and it's called the grief of the heart theory. When I researched a bit about original sin, I found St. Augustine's take on the matter. St. Augustine equates original sin with concupiscence, which is the innate human desire to become consumed in our vanities and thus sin. Concupiscence is not a sin. It is a human condition that orients or inclines us to sin. In the same way, Majora orients the terminants to become consumed in their grief. Now, since we're talking about transcendentalism, let's talk about life and death. What's the difference between the two? Gotta get your definition straight before you talk about transcendentalism. A lot of people believe we breathe air and then we eat dirt. Simple as that. Others say we live and that there is another life waiting for us. Buddhism teaches samsara, and I am under the impression that the people who made Majora's Mask are Japanese, and Buddhism's kind of their thing over there. Now, samsara illustrates a cycle of ignorance. Our reality is within that cycle. We're born again and again until we can achieve oneness and ascend beyond the cycle. This is the circle of life. Beyond it is the true life. If we can control the way we react to events, we will be able to master life and break free from this. By doing that, we start to live, so to speak. Now, tell me, off the top of your head, what is the one thing that everybody wants in the world? What is the greatest power that we humans possess? It's not a riddle or anything like that, just first thing off the top of your head. Love. Love is that thing that we all seek. And love drives all of our behavior. Now, tell me, what's that mask shaped like? Have you ever heard anyone talk about the mask being heart-shaped? All I can find is bloggers talking about it, but none of them really have anything to back up their beliefs. Now, love for anything can make people shirk their responsibilities and infect their environment negatively. We can't choose what to love. You always hear people say, go with your heart. But if your heart is in the wrong place, well, that could be a terrible fate. So what does this mean about Majora? Well, Majora's Mask has the same symptoms as love. The only thing that makes us distinct from computers now is the capability to love, and I don't think they will be able to capture love and put it into AIs because of how love affects us. can influence us to put everything on the line and listen to our hearts, which can be influenced by anything, which can lead to total chaos. Our greatest base for rule of law is do unto others as you would have done unto yourself. This is how some people play the game. But it's not how everybody plays the game. Everybody wears a mask. And you are only bound to your heart. We're all corruptible, and as far as anyone knows, the mass murderer may have taken the right path. He chose his path. Whoa, hey man, you ain't supposed to ever say something like that. Listen, guys, ladies, we don't know the rules to the game. What about Majora having the same symptoms of the heart? Why don't you get back to that? Why don't you explain that? Alright, well it means that all we have to do is look for groups of people who would be powerful enough to dive into dark magic and make a mask that would have the power of a heart conceived out of an arrogant love for their people, a dark heart with powerful enough where it could cause the demise of humanity possibly, but not the Hylians. So, this is it guys and ladies. Who made Majora's Mask? From everything we've seen so far, my belief on the beings that made Majora's Mask, it's the Dark Interlopers. All wars over the sacred realm were to gain the Triforce's power and make a wish with it and spread their influence. But the Dark Interlopers, that wasn't their plan. They tried to conquer the sacred realm, not use its power. They wanted to prove that these dark magicians were mightier than the goddesses, as Ganondorf explains to us.
Your people have long amused me, Midna, to defy the gods with such petty magic, only to be cast aside. How very pathetic.
Truly, and Ganondorf knows what's up. There would be no Hyrule in the first place if it weren't for the goddesses. So they said, play with your magic in the Twilight Zone. Banished. Banished. And they sealed their power. This built up really nicely with the release of Link Between Worlds, because we know now that the land will cease to exist without the Triforce. So, divine intervention, bitches. It just ain't gonna happen. So I'm looking at the Dark Interlopers because they're unique. They blaspheme against the goddesses, and that is critical when relating their power to Majora. Majora's Mask is hexed with the chaos of the heart, conceived out of arrogance and hatred for the goddesses, in spite of the goddesses granting them life. And why? Because they were not also granted the love of the goddesses. Now, how did I come up with that, you say? Well, this is the story of the Skull Kid. Friends of the Giants before they separated the corners of Termina, dormant until they were needed. The law of the land was disrupted by the Skull Kid in spite of the Giants. Feeling neglected, so he spread his anger across the four worlds. Repeatedly, he wronged all people. Blasphemous! So they banished him to the heavens, which is interesting. And he meets Link there, numerous times. And now, talk about a perfect candidate for Majora's Mask. To use as a puppet, a chaotic, blasphemous imp? It wasn't just a coincidence that the Skull Kid was chosen. Someone's heart had to be susceptible to Majora's evil. We can see through that the Triforce is greater than the heart. The people cannot exist without the Triforce, and these guys, in their ignorance, try to rule over the Triforce. In the land of Hyrule, there is destiny. There is no evidence of free will as of now. Nehru created all beings that would uphold the law. What about everybody else? Who exactly does that include? It's not explained. What about the Terminid people? They have the Giants, why did they need Link's help? Why does Link seemingly prevent that destiny? Well, it's because that dark power had already been proven to be no match for the Triforce. Parallel worlds exist. Lorule, Termina, places where citizens look identical to Hyruleans. It's pretty obvious demise came from Lorule, seeing as his sword Girahim has the Lorulean Triforce opposing Link's Master Sword. These identical parallel beings have different moral values, and we can't be sure what traits their world holds in high regard. Nehru poured her wisdom onto the earth and gave the spirit of law to the world. Now, what the hell is a spirit of law? It doesn't say the spirit of the law or spirit of a law. She gave the spirit of law to the world. So, maybe these dark interlopers were simply beings that lived outside the land of Hyrule, also known as the Light Realm, who were jealous of the Hyruleans. They were ignored, unloved, and attempted to establish the law of their hearts in Hyrule, ignorant of the fact that Hyrule only sways under the influence of the Triforce. This explains why Ganondorf is capable of creating the Dark World, but these dark interlopers are not. Majora's Mask is directly related to the interlopers, not just through symbolism, but the design choice for Midna's headdress is nearly identical to it. Another power that is capable of bringing about complete destruction under the wrong wearer. It makes sense why Termina means boundary lines, where a lot of people say it means death. Outside the Light Realm, people must put faith into something or someone, if anything. All these people wearing masks, and you never know who to put faith into. So you put faith into what makes you happy. But when your happiness is taken away, all that's left now is how you will react. Now the next question is, who are the dark interlopers? But we're going to save that for next time. Instead, what does this mean for our reality? What should we put faith into? In Hyrule, it's pretty obvious. The goddesses are the prime choice. But what of our world when there are so many choices? Are we trying to end this cycle of pain and move into eternal bliss? If so, how do we do it? Or is there no cycle, no afterlife, and all that matters is what we make out of life? Let me know what you guys think.
Exactly as I predicted it. The minutia is different, I nailed the gist of it. Just failed to adjust, baby, it was a bust. As I was saying, Craven Blunt, step up and started playing.